Hello everyone, this is Sarah. I'm currently teaching an advanced community English class, and I've been struggling with the question of how I can design tasks that allow for negotiation of meaning, but also provide learning opportunities for my advanced students. Because I want to push my students to use more complex language rather than just practicing the language that they're already comfortable with. So that is what I'm going to be talking about today. While researching this question, I came across Robinson 2001's model of task complexity. So his model looks at what in the task itself leads learners to produce more complex language, which is exactly what I was looking for. So I find this model to be extremely helpful when designing a task to think about what to include and what not to include in this task. And I think it will be helpful for you as well. So let's take a look at his basic model.
Robinson breaks down task complexity into resource directing dimensions and resource depleting dimensions. The resource directing includes the number of elements, here and now, and reasoning demands. Resource depleting includes planning time, number of tasks, and prior knowledge. Now, according to Robinson, increasing task complexity along the resource directing dimensions and decreasing complexity along the resource depleting dimensions allows students to focus their cognitive resources on the linguistic demands of the task, which will lead to more complex output.
So basically, if you're a teacher and you want your students to create more complex language in a task, Robinson says you're going to want to do a few things. So first, you're going to want to activate prior knowledge. You're also going to want to design tasks with only a few parts. And you're going to want to provide planning time to your students. These three things allow your students to focus on the linguistic aspects of the task. Now, to make the task more complex, you're going to want to move from the easier to express here and now to the more complicated then and there. You're also going to want to provide multiple elements, and you're going to want to increase the reasoning demands of the task. Now, of course, depending on your students, you don't want to increase task complexity along all three of those. You might just pick and choose what's most appropriate. Okay, so now with that in mind, let's look at an example.
So this example is based off the task in Kukin and Vedder's research on cognitive task complexity and linguistic performance. They designed this using Robinson's model of task complexity. I really like this task because I feel like it can be easily adapted to fit different contexts. So I changed it a little bit to fit an ESL class as opposed to the context that it was designed for. So let's take a look. In this task, students are given a scenario in which they're planning a vacation to California with a friend. They're given the task of determining the best hotel to stay in based on 6 criteria. At the end of the lesson, they will present their opinion to the class and support this opinion with reasons. So if we think back to Robinson's model, this task has been made more complex along the resource directing dimensions because it is dealing with the future as opposed to the easier here and now, and because of the increased reasoning demands. Now remember, Robinson also believes that to allow students to focus their full cognitive resources on the linguistic demands, the resource depleting dimensions need to be made less complex. Therefore, this task should follow a priming task in which prior knowledge is activated. Additionally, students should be given planning time to prepare for the task. Skean and Foster suggest about 10 minutes. With these task conditions, students are now ready to devote their full attention to creating the complex language that this task requires. Many researchers support and have used Robinson's model to design complex tasks. However, there has been some debate surrounding this model. One critique is that Robinson does not explain if all of the dimensions are of equal importance. Additionally, there is the question of students' ability to pay attention to accuracy and complexity at the same time. Robinson believes they can. However, other researchers like Skean, Foster, and Van Patten argue that there's a trade-off between accuracy, fluency, and complexity.
Overall, it's important for you to know what your goal is for that lesson. If it's for your students to produce more complex language, then follow Robinson's model and don't get too worried about fluency or accuracy for that task. Okay, so I hope this video and Robinson's model will help you to design tasks that lead your students to use more complex language.